Hi everyone, welcome back. Now, if you're watching this video, it means that you're curious about forward shaft lean at impact. Now, this is something that is common among all good ball strikers. Being able to do this correctly will dramatically increase your distance, quality of strike, and make it easier to hit the same spot on the ground. And the reason most people don't know how to do this is because they don't understand or know how to bend their wrist correctly at impact. So in this video, I'll be discussing the common mistakes people make with wrist bends at impact. And with the help of the Precision Impact Training Aid, I will teach you guys on how to bend your wrists correctly and how to maintain angles long enough so that you can start to lean the shaft forward. So every good ball striker will do two things. And the first is that their weight will be forward, kind of majority of the weight on the lead side. And the second is that their hands will be ahead of the golf ball as they're striking it. Okay, and what that allows people to do is that it allows the club head to hit down on the golf ball and squeeze the golf ball into the ground so that you're hitting the ball first and then the grass afterwards. And essentially what happens is that when you lean the shaft forward at impact, just after impact, is when your left arm and the club will form a straight line. Okay, so we always want to manage kind of where this longest point is, and it always has to be after impact with an iron. Now, the common mistake that I see with most players is that it's kind of in the opposite way. So everything's on the right foot, the weight's on the right foot. Also, they dump out the angles in their trail wrist too early, and they add extension or cupping into the lead wrist way too early before impact. So what happens is that their hands slow down, right? They get the radius kind of extended out too early, and now in order for them to miss the ground, they have to essentially shorten out this radius in some way so that they miss the ground and they can hit the ball. So that would come in the form of spreading out the elbows, maybe changing their posture, maybe further adding extension and dumping out the angles further in their trail wrist. Okay, so that way they can actually miss the ground and strike the ball. But if you can time it correctly at just before impact, maybe you can strike the golf ball okay. If you are not able to make adjustments in time, you'll hit the ground first. And then also, if you overcompensate, maybe you'll just miss the ground totally and you'll hit it thin. So it is very essential that we learn to do things to get our weight on the left side. We get the shaft to lean forward. That way you can manage where you strike the ground and get more consistency on when you're striking the ground. If you're able to do that, then you will increase your distance, quality of strike, and get the ball in the air much more consistently. So when it comes to wrist bends at impact, it sometimes proves very difficult for some people just because there's a lot of speed through the hitting area. So when there's a lot of speed through the hitting area, it's very difficult to feel out those wrist bends at certain positions, right? Because it's very, since it happens so fast, you don't really have as much awareness. I was sent this training aid, the Precision Impact Training Aid, and I thought this was really, really great. I had a lot of good results when I tried this with some students. And the reason why this was so good is because not only was I able to get people to feel the correct amount of wrist bends at impact, doing it smaller and doing it slower, but they were able to apply those same feels to a faster and fuller swing. So as you're wearing this training aid on your trail wrist or your trail forearm, as you hold the club and as you take it back, as you add extension into that trail wrist or more cupping, you can see that the device kind of clicks and locks your wrist in place so that when you take it back and when you come down, it almost forces you to maintain the wrist angles long enough through the hitting area. So one other feature that makes this training aid more different from other training aids or other potential training aids is the fact that it gives the wrist more mobility, even though it forces you to maintain a lot of extension or cupping in that trail wrist through impact. So not a lot of training aids allow you to do that. It just kind of locks your wrist in place like this the whole time. You can't really move it anywhere else. But with this training aid, you're able to move the wrist kind of up and down. So through the hitting area, you can add extension, but you can also like rotate your arm. You can also rehinge the club. So that way you can use this while making a full swing. So how I get people to use this at the start is when they're standing over the golf ball, I just have them do like 60, 50-yard pitches. So when they take the club back, I have them, hear a couple clicks and just make them do like a very, very small version of the swing first. The feedback I usually get at the start is that they feel like they're like resistance against the tool. Like they want to like let go of the angles in their wrists, so they're feeling a lot of resistance here. So it actually forces you to now move a different part of the club faster. So usually people who demonstrated a lot of extension like this in the lead wrist, or they dump out the angles really early in the downswing, what happens is that the grip end or the butt end of the club will start to slow down and actually move more backwards behind them as the club head kind of passes their hands. Now that you're adding or you're maintaining more angles in the wrist and you're starting to lean the shaft forward, what's happening is that you're now moving the butt end of the club further away from you. You're accelerating the butt end of the club more ahead of the golf ball. So one thing that people may struggle with while using this tool is knowing how to close the club face or to square up the club face at impact. So a lot of people, when they maintain their wrist angles and try to lean the shaft really far forward, they actually leave the club face open, because beforehand, the way that they shut the face was to really let go of the angles very early, and then eventually kind of the club face will get to square at some point, but with added loft and with the shaft not leaning forward. So when you add extension or maintain extension in the trail wrist longer, the only way that you can start to close the face is if you start to turn the face down, or you start to roll or pronate your trail arm more and supinate your lead arm more. So and that's what exactly this tool allows you to do while you hold that extension there. So if you look at it from the side, as I'm coming down, if I don't do anything with my arms and wrists and I make contact, that club face is going to be pointing off to the right. But if I add kind of pronation and kind of rolling the club face down, you can see that the toe of the club face kind of rolls and points up towards the sky, right? And I can still maintain that extension to my trail wrist. Okay, so if I were to demonstrate this very slowly for you guys, as I make my backswing and I add extension to my trail wrist, you'll hear the clicks. Now, when I go through this very slowly, in order for me to close the club face coming down, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pronate my trail forearm and supinate my lead forearm, and that's going to allow that toe of the club to maybe overtake the heel. Okay, and then because, like I explained earlier, how this tool gives my wrist enough range of motion, I can actually start to rehinge the club correctly as well. So not only does it allow you to add more shafting and more extension to the trail wrist, but it gives you the correct feel and sensation of the proper release and proper rehinging in the follow through. So if you guys are interested in perhaps purchasing one of these, I left a link in the description box below that will give you a discount. This is by far as close as you're going to get to probably someone just guiding your wrist the whole way through the swing. So this is going to give you the exact feel that you need. And if you still have some time on your hands, I would urge you to watch one of my earlier videos over here. And this is a great video going over, again, some other common issues that people have with the lead wrist, and some drills that you can go over to get the club face in a better position, get your club in a better position, to further help you with your ball striking.